She's alone in the restaurant kitchen when 7 men block the exit. Not customers, not delivery. Men who've been watching her, tracking her Tuesday routine, planning this. You're Analia Beaver, right? The chef who used to own this place. Analia's gripping the counter, mind racing. They know her name, her schedule, everything. Your old partner borrowed money from dangerous people. He disappeared. So now you're paying his debt. $50,000. Tonight. Or they're taking her. She grabs a knife, 7 against 1. What's she gonna do? Then her phone rings. 7 missed calls from her husband. When the leader answers and hears his name, he goes pale, starts apologizing. We grabbed the Viper's wife. Here's a question that'll keep you up at night. How well do you really know your partner? Like, actually know them? Not the version they show you over breakfast, but who they are when you're not around. Most of us assume we know everything. Analia thought the same thing. She was wrong. Very wrong. Would you want to find out the truth even if it shatters everything? Drop your honest answer and subscribe, because some secrets are too big to ignore. The freezer door clicked shut behind Analia, and that's when she realized she wasn't alone. 7 men stood between her and the kitchen exit, their shadows stretching long across the tiled floor under the flickering fluorescent lights. Her hands, still wet from washing vegetables, gripped the counter edge as her mind raced through possibilities, none of them good. Can I help you guys with something?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady, even though her heart was doing backflips in her chest. The one in front, tall with a jagged scar across his eyebrow, tilted his head like he was studying something mildly interesting. "You're Analia Beaver, right? The chef who used to own this place?" "I just work here now," she said quickly, maybe too quickly. "Sold it 6 months ago. Whatever you need, the new owner." "We know you sold it," another voice interrupted, this one coming from a stocky man leaning against her prep station. "We also know you show up every Tuesday night to cook because you can't seem to let go. Creatures of habit. They're so easy to track." Her stomach dropped. They'd been watching her, planning this. "Look, I don't know what this is about," Analia said, her mind scrambling for the phone she'd left charging in the office. "But I'm just a cook, okay? I make food. That's it. Whatever problem you've got." Your old partner, Scar Eyebrow cut in, stepping closer. "The one who handled the books before you bought him out. He borrowed money from some people. A lot of money. Then he disappeared. And those people, well, they're not happy about it. Robin?" She couldn't hide her surprise. Robin had been useless at business, sure, but dangerous? The man cried during sad commercials. "What does that have to do with me?" "Everything," the stocky one said, pushing off from the counter. "See, when someone vanishes owing a debt, we look for the next closest thing. And you, sweetheart, you're the closest thing." The world tilted slightly. This couldn't be happening. She'd divorced herself from Robin's mess over a year ago, taken out a loan to buy him out completely, started fresh. She'd even met someone new, someone wonderful who made her believe in second chances, and "My husband," she blurted out, grasping for anything that might make them reconsider. "My husband. He'll notice I'm not home. He's probably already worried. He always calls if I'm late." One of the younger guys laughed. Actually laughed. "Yeah? What's he gonna do? File a missing persons report?" "Lady, by the time anyone realizes you're gone, this'll all be sorted out." "You don't understand," she tried again, her voice smaller now. He won't just—" "Put the knife down," Scar Eyebrow said calmly, and she realized she'd grabbed the chef's knife from the magnetic strip without even thinking about it. Her hands shook as she looked down at the blade. What was she going to do with it anyway? Fight 7 grown men? She was a chef from Cape Coast, who'd learned to make kimchi from YouTube videos, not some action hero. The knife clattered onto the counter. "Smart girl," he said, nodding to two others who moved forward. They didn't hurt her, exactly, but they weren't gentle either. Rough hands grabbed her arms, and she stumbled as they dragged her toward the walk-in freezer. Not inside it, thank God, not inside, but to the small, dry storage room next to it, where she kept rice bags and industrial-sized containers of gochujang. "Please," she heard herself saying, hating how weak it sounded. "Please, I don't have anything to do with Robin anymore. I don't even know where he is." "Then you better hope your husband's got $50,000 lying around," Scar Eyebrow said, as they pushed her down onto a stack of rice bags. "Because that's what Robin owes, plus interest. 50,000. Her entire savings was maybe 8,000, and that had taken her 3 years to build up. Ho Jun had money, probably. She'd never really asked because he was private about his work, and she respected that, but they were tying her wrists. Actual rope, like they'd planned this whole thing. The reality of it crashed over her in waves. This wasn't a misunderstanding that would get cleared up. These men had come here with rope and a plan, and demands she couldn't meet. "Where's her phone?" one of them asked. "Office," another replied. "I'll grab it." The storage room smelled like jasmine rice and dried seaweed in fear, though maybe that last one was just her. They'd left the door open, probably because there was no window anyway. Nowhere to run even if she got loose. One guy stayed behind to watch her, younger than the others, scrolling through his phone like this was just another boring Tuesday for him. "Can I ask you something?" Analia said after a few minutes of silence. He looked up, surprised. "What? How old are you?" His jaw tightened. "Why?" "Because you look like you're maybe 22, 23. And I'm just wondering how you ended up here, in a storage room, guarding a chef who's got nothing to do with any of this." She wasn't trying to be smart or manipulative. She was genuinely curious. Maybe if she kept talking, kept him human instead of just a guard. "Maybe. Not your business," he muttered, but his eyes shifted away. "I've got a cousin your age," she continued, her voice soft. "Emmanuel. He's studying engineering in Accra, wants to build bridges. What did you want to be when you were younger?" "Stop talking. Did you want this? To be threatening people for money they don't have?" I said stop. But his voice cracked a little, and she saw it. The tiny flicker of something that wasn't hardness. Regret, maybe. Or just exhaustion. Before she could push further, footsteps returned. Scar Eyebrow came back in, holding her phone, and her heart sank when she saw the screen lit up with missed calls. 7 of them, all from Ho Jun. "Looks like hubby's worried," he said, scrolling through with a grin that made her skin crawl. "Kim Ho Jun, that's a Korean name, yeah? What's that about? You into that K-pop stuff?" Under any other circumstances, she might have laughed. Ho Jun hated K-pop, said it gave him headaches, but nothing about this was funny. "We met at a night market," she heard herself saying, the memory floating up unbidden. "I was selling my grandmother's walkie with a Korean twist, added kimchi and gochugaru to the sauce. He bought 3 plates, came back an hour later for 2 more. "Touching," Scar Eyebrow said flatly. "Here's what's gonna happen. When he calls again, you're gonna tell him exactly what I say. $50,000 tonight, at the old textile warehouse on Meridian Street. He comes alone, he brings the cash, you go home. Simple." "We don't have $50,000, she said desperately. "I'm a chef, he does import-export business or something. I don't even fully understand it. But we're not rich. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment. We take the bus. Then he better figure it out fast." The phone started ringing again, vibrating in his hand. Ho Jun's name flashed across the screen. "Remember what I said. Any tricks, any codes, anything that sounds wrong. You won't like what happens next." He answered the call, put it on speaker, and held it near her face. "Analia." Ho-jun's voice came through, tight with worry. "Where are you? I've been calling for an hour. Are you still at the restaurant?" She opened her mouth, and nothing came out. What could she say? How could she explain this without making it worse? "Baby, talk to me," he continued, and she could hear movement in the background. He was already heading somewhere, probably to his car. "What's wrong?" Her voice broke. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "For what? What happened?" "There are these men here," she managed, tears blurring her vision. "They say Robin owes money. A lot of money. And they want $50,000 by tonight, or they'll put them on the phone. Now." The change in his voice made her freeze. Gone was the gentle tone he used when reading to her from his favorite poetry books, replaced by something cold and sharp as a blade. She'd never heard him sound like that. Never. Scar Eyebrow took the phone, his grin widening. "Listen up, husband. Your wife's old business partner screwed over some important people, and now she's collateral. You want her back? 50,000, Meridian Street warehouse, 2 hours. No cops, no tricks, or..." He stopped mid-sentence, just stopped, his face draining of color like someone had pulled a plug. "What?" one of the others asked. "What did he say?" Scar Eyebrow pulled the phone away from his ear, staring at it like it had turned into a snake. His hand was shaking. Actually, shaking. "Well," the stocky one demanded. "What did he asked?" Scar Eyebrow swallowed hard. "He asked if we knew who we were dealing with. I told him I didn't care. And then he told me his name, his full name." A beat of silence. "So? It's Kim Ho-jun. We already knew." "Not Kim Ho-jun, the import-export guy," Scar Eyebrow said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Kim Ho-jun, who runs the Eastern Seaboard operations. Kim Ho-jun, who..." He looked at Analia like he was seeing her for the first time. "We grabbed the Viper's wife." The room went dead silent. Analia sat there, bound and confused, watching grown men's faces cycle through disbelief, then recognition, then pure terror. "The Viper?" the young guard whispered. "As in, the Viper? The one who..." "Shut up," the stocky one hissed, but his voice shook too. "That's not..." "She drives a Honda Civic. She works in a kitchen. There's no way..." "I know what I heard," Scar Eyebrow insisted. He looked at the phone again, and it started ringing. Everyone flinched. "Don't answer it," someone said. "We have to answer it," another argued. "If we don't, he'll assume he already knows where we are," a third voice added. "The Viper always knows. That's what he does." Scar Eyebrow answered, hands trembling so badly he nearly dropped the phone. He put it on speaker again. Ho-jun's voice filled the storage room, calm as still water and twice as deep. "I'm going to give you one chance to fix this mistake. One chance, because my wife is a good person who would want me to show mercy." Nobody spoke. "I know exactly where you are," he continued. "I've known for 37 minutes. I know who sent you. Franco's crew out of Tama, correct? I know about the shipment you lost last month. I know where Franco's sister works, where his mother gets her hair done every Saturday, where his daughter goes to dance class." "Mr. Kim," Scar Eyebrow started, "we didn't know. I swear we thought she was just..." "You have 90 seconds to untie my wife and leave. Every second after that, someone you care about becomes my problem. Do you understand?" The line went dead. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Then Scar Eyebrow lunged for the ropes binding her wrists, fingers fumbling with the knots. "We're sorry," he babbled. "We're so sorry. We didn't know who you were. Please tell him we didn't know." "I'm just a chef," Analia said numbly, rubbing her freed wrists. "I make food. I don't understand what's..." "Doesn't matter what you think you are," the stocky one said, already backing toward the door. "What matters is who you married. Franco's gonna kill us for this, if the Viper doesn't get to us first. They scattered like roaches when the lights come on, tripping over each other to get out of the storage room, out of the kitchen, probably out of the country if they had any sense. Within seconds, Analia was alone, sitting on rice bags in the sudden silence, trying to piece together what had just happened. The Viper. They'd called Ho Jun the Viper, her husband, who brought her tea every morning, who learned to braid her hair from YouTube tutorials because she mentioned missing her sister doing it, who cried during the proposal because he said he'd never imagined someone like her would love someone like him. That Ho Jun was, what? Some kind of criminal? A gangster? Her phone lay on the floor where Scar Eyebrow had dropped it. She picked it up, hand still shaking, and stared at Ho Jun's contact photo. Him making a silly face while holding up her latest fusion creation, proud as anything. She called him back. He answered before the first ring finished. Are you hurt? Not hello, not are you okay, are you hurt? Like that was the only thing that mattered. No, They ran. They just left. She laughed, but it came out wrong, kind of broken. Who are you? Silence stretched between them, heavy with things unsaid. I'm coming to get you, he finally answered. Don't leave them. Restaurant. Lock all the doors. I'll be there in 8 minutes. Ho-jun, answer me. Who are you? The same person I was this morning when I made you breakfast, he said quietly. The same person who loves you more than anything in this world. But we need to talk, and I need to see that you're safe first. 8 minutes, okay? Can you wait 8 minutes? She nodded, even though he couldn't see it. Okay. I love you, Analia. The line went dead before she could say it back. She made her way to the front of the restaurant on legs that didn't quite feel like her own, locked the doors like he'd told her, and sank into one of the dining chairs. Through the windows, the street looked normal. A couple arguing outside the convenience store, a taxi honking at someone, regular Tuesday night stuff. Her life had just exploded, and the world kept spinning like nothing had changed. But everything had changed, hadn't it? The man she'd married, the one who'd proposed to her on a beach at sunset, with a ring he'd saved up for months to buy. That man had apparently scared 7 criminals into fleeing with just his name. How had she missed this? Were there signs? She thought back through their relationship, the occasional mysterious phone calls he'd taken in another room, the way certain restaurants always gave them the best tables without reservations, how he'd once made 3 guys harassing her at the market literally run away just by looking at them. She'd thought he was just confident, protective, maybe a little intense sometimes, but in a sweet way. Now she wondered what else she'd been too in love to see clearly. Headlights cut through the darkness outside. A black car, not his usual sedan, pulled up to the curb, and Ho-jun got out. He'd changed clothes since this morning. The comfortable sweater and jeans were gone, replaced by dark slacks and a button-up that made him look different, harder. Like someone who could absolutely be called the Viper without it, being ridiculous. 2 other men got out with him, both in similar dark clothing. They scanned the street while Ho-jun walked to the door, and when she unlocked it, he was inside in half a second, hands cupping her face, eyes searching hers with desperate intensity. "You're sure you're not hurt?" he asked, switching to Korean the way he always did when he was worried. "They didn't touch you?" I'm fine, she said, pulling back slightly because she needed space to think, to breathe. "But you need to explain. Right now. All of it." He glanced at the 2 men still outside, then back at her. "Can we go home first, please? Somewhere safe where we can—" "No." She stood her ground, even though every instinct screamed to let him take her home, wrap her in blankets, pretend this hadn't happened. "You explain now, Ho-jun, or I swear I'll walk out that door and—" "I run an organization," he said quickly, the words tumbling out like he'd been holding them back for months. Import-export is real, but it's not. It's not legal imports. I move goods that people can't move through normal channels. I solve problems that normal solutions can't fix. I protect people who can't protect themselves. And yes, sometimes that means I have to be someone scary, someone people fear. She stared at him, waiting for it to feel unreal. But it didn't. It felt like puzzle pieces finally clicking into place, all those little weird moments suddenly making horrible sense. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Before we got married, why didn't—" "Because I love you," he interrupted, stepping closer, but not touching her. "Because you are the only good thing in my life, the only pure thing, and I was terrified that if you knew, you'd leave. You'd see what I really am, and you'd run, and I couldn't. Analia, I couldn't lose you." Tears burned in her eyes. "So you lied." "I never lied," he said desperately. I didn't tell you. Everything. And I know that's almost worse. I know. But every day I was with you, I kept thinking I'd find the right moment to explain, and then more time would pass, and it got harder, and—" His voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. If I could go back and do it differently. But you can't," she finished. "And now I'm standing here realizing I married a stranger." "No." He shook his head, fierce. "You married me. The man who loves your laugh more than music. Who thinks you're brilliant for creating fusion dishes nobody else would think of. Who wants to spend every morning for the rest of his life watching you burn toast and pretend you didn't." Despite everything, a tiny smile cracked through. "The criminal stuff, that's what I do. It's not who I am." "Isn't it, though?" She wrapped her arms around herself. "Those men were terrified of you, Ho-jun. They ran like you were death itself. What have you done to make people fear you like that?" He looked away, jaw tight. "Things I'm not proud of. Things I did because in my world, you're either feared or you're dead. But I've never hurt anyone who didn't deserve it. I've never—" "Who gets to decide who deserves it?" she asked. "You?" "Sometimes." His honesty was almost worse than a lie would have been. "Yes. Sometimes, me." The two men outside were still there, watching the street like guards, or like enforcers. She couldn't tell the difference anymore. "I need time," Analia said finally. I can't process this right now. I can't—" "Okay," Ho-jun said immediately, backing up to give her space. "Okay, whatever you need. But please let me take you somewhere safe tonight. Not our apartment if you don't want. But somewhere I know those guys won't." "They're not coming back," she pointed out. "You scared them into next week. Franco might send others. People who don't know to be scared yet." His face was grim. "Please, Analia, just for tonight. Then tomorrow you can decide whatever. You need to decide about us. About everything." She wanted to say no, wanted to prove she wasn't some damsel who needed protecting. But she was also exhausted and terrified, and her wrists still ached from the ropes, so she nodded. "One night," she agreed. "And tomorrow we talk. Really talk. No more secrets." "No more secrets," he promised, relief flooding his features. "I'll tell you everything. Every ugly truth. Just please don't give up on us yet." She didn't promise anything because she couldn't. Not when her whole world had just shifted sideways, and she didn't know which way was up anymore. The safe house turned out to be a penthouse apartment in the business district, all floor-to-ceiling windows and furniture that probably cost more than her entire restaurant had. "This is yours?" she asked, as Ho-jun unlocked the door. "One of several properties," he admitted. "I don't usually use it, but it's got security, and Franco's people don't know about it. The two men from earlier, bodyguards, she'd learned, named Kwame and Young-ho. did a sweep of the apartment before giving Ho-jun a nod and stationing themselves outside in the hallway. She watched the whole thing feeling like she'd stepped into a movie, except movies didn't usually feature your husband casually having bodyguards. Once they were alone, the silence felt heavy as a blanket. Ho-jun hovered near the kitchen, like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to come closer. "Are you hungry?" he asked. "I could order something. Or there's probably ingredients here, though I'm not sure how fresh." "Stop," she said quietly. "Stop acting like everything's normal when it's not." He nodded, swallowing hard. "You're right. I'm sorry." She walked to the windows, looking out over the city lights. From up here, everything looked peaceful, organized, like the world made sense. "How long have you been, whatever you are?" "Since I was 19, he said behind her. "My father ran a shipping company, legitimate business. But when he died, we found out he'd borrowed money from dangerous people to keep it afloat. My older brother was supposed to take over, but Ho-jun's voice went flat. He wasn't built for hard decisions. So I made them instead. What happened to him?" "Your brother?" "He's in Busan now, running a small bookstore. He's happy. Safe. That's all that matters." She turned to look at him. "And you took on all of this to protect him?" "To protect him, to pay off my father's debts, to keep our mother from losing everything." He ran a hand through his hair. "At first, it was supposed to be temporary, just until I sorted things out. But then I was good at it, really good, and temporary became permanent. And he met her eyes. By the time I met you, I'd been the Viper for so long I'd forgotten how to be anything else. Until you reminded me." "Don't," Analia said, shaking her head. "Don't make me responsible for your humanity. That's not fair." "I'm not. That's not what I meant." He took a tentative step closer. "What I mean is, being with you let me remember who I was before all this, who I wanted to be. You didn't make me human again, Analia. You just made me want to try harder to hold on to the parts of me that still were." Despite herself, despite everything, that got through her anger to something softer underneath. "I fell in love with someone who brought me tea and learned to cook my grandmother's recipes. Was that person even real?" "Yes," he said fiercely. "That's the most real I've ever been. Everything with you, every moment. That was me, not the Viper, not the guy people fear. Just me." She wanted to believe him so badly it hurt, but trust, once cracked, wasn't easy to repair. "Those men tonight, they said you run Eastern Seaboard operations. What does that even mean?" He hesitated. "No more secrets," she reminded him. "You promised. It means I control shipping routes, manage distribution networks, and handle disputes for everything from here to the coast. Products move through my channels or they don't move at all." He watched her face carefully. "I don't deal in weapons or anything that hurts kids. Never have, never will. Those are my lines. But drugs, counterfeit goods, protected items." He shrugged. "Yeah, that's me. And the Viper thing?" She almost didn't want to know. "A reputation I built carefully," he said. "In my world, fear is currency. If people think you're ruthless enough, dangerous enough, you rarely have to actually be those things. Most problems solve themselves when everyone believes you're willing to go further than them." "But are you?" she pressed. "Willing to go further?" His silence was answer enough. Analia sank onto the ridiculous couch, her legs giving out. "I don't know if I can do this. Be married to someone who's probably done things I can't even imagine." Ho-jun stayed where he was, giving her space. "I understand. And if you decide you can't, I'll let you go. I won't fight it. Your happiness matters more than mine." "Don't say that," she said tiredly. Don't be noble about it. That makes it harder. Then what do you want me to say? I don't know. She pressed her hands against her eyes. I want you to say this is all a misunderstanding, that you're actually an accountant with a weird, scary reputation, that those men were wrong and our life can go back to normal. I can't say that. I know. She laughed, but it hurt coming out. God, I know. They sat in silence for a while, the city humming below them. Finally, Analia spoke again. Tell me about the first time, she said. The first time you had to be the Viper instead of just Ho-Jun. He looked surprised. Why? Because if I'm going to decide whether to stay married to you, I need to understand how you became this person. So tell me. He was quiet for so long, she thought he might refuse. Then he walked to the window, staring out at nothing. There was a man, he started slowly. Lee Sang-uk. He'd been one of my father's creditors, the one pushing hardest for payment. He came to our house one night, threw a brick through my mother's window while she was sleeping. Told me that was just a warning, that next time it'd be worse. Analia listened, barely breathing. I was 20, barely knew what I was doing, but I knew I couldn't let him keep terrorizing her. So I did research, found out he was skimming money from his own boss, collected proof, delivered it anonymously. Ho-Jun's reflection in the window looked haunted. His boss handled the rest, and word got around that the Kim kid wasn't someone to push around, that he had eyes everywhere, information on everyone. That's not so bad, Analia said quietly. You didn't actually hurt anyone. That time, he agreed. But there were other times. Times when information wasn't enough. When I had to, he trailed off. I'm not going to lie to you about who I've been, Analia, but I'm also not going to give you nightmares with details you don't need. Fair enough, she supposed. The thing is, Ho-Jun continued, turning to face her, I never enjoyed it. The fear, the power, it was always just a tool to protect people I cared about. My mother, my brother, my friends. And then you came along, and suddenly I had someone new to protect. Someone precious, who didn't even know she was in danger just by being with me. I can protect myself, she said automatically. I know you can. You're the strongest person I've ever met. He managed a small smile. But strength doesn't stop bullets, Analia. It doesn't stop people like Franco's crew from deciding you're a useful bargaining chip. Is that going to be my life now? She asked. Always looking over my shoulder? Always wondering if someone's going to grab me to get to you? Not if I can help it. His jaw set in that stubborn way she recognized. Franco and I are going to have a conversation. After tonight, everyone in. The region will know that touching you means war. It won't happen again. You can't promise that. Watch me. The certainty in his voice should have been scary. Instead, it was almost comforting, which probably said terrible things about her psychological state right now. I need to sleep, Analia announced, suddenly exhausted beyond measure. My brain can't handle any more of this tonight. Guest bedroom's down the hall, Ho-Jun said immediately. Fresh sheets, bathroom attached. Take whatever time you need. She stood, then paused. Where will you sleep? Couch is fine. That's stupid. This place has like 6 bedrooms, probably. 4, actually. A ghost of his usual humor flickered across his face. But the couch is closer to the front door, just in case. Just in case someone got past Kwame and Young-ho in the security system, and however many other protections he'd probably set up. Just in case, because this was his life now. Their life now, and danger was always a possibility. Analia walked toward the hallway, then stopped at the doorway. Without turning around, she said, I still love you. I'm furious and confused, and I don't know what I'm going to do, but I still love you. I need you to know that. She heard his sharp intake of breath. Analia, don't, She cut him off. Don't say anything. Just let me sleep on it. On all of it. She didn't wait for a response, just headed to the guest room and closed the door behind her. Only then did she let herself cry. For the life she'd thought she had, for the choices she'd have to make, for the man she loved who turned out to be someone she barely knew. The bed was too comfortable, the sheets too fine. Everything in this apartment screamed money and power and all the things she'd never wanted. She'd been happy in their small apartment with the leaky faucet and the neighbors who played music too loud. That had been real. But so was Ho-Jun's face when he'd found her at the restaurant. So was the terror in his voice when he'd asked if she was hurt. So was the way he'd looked at her just now, like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. Love and lies, truth and danger. How was she supposed to choose? She cried herself to sleep and dreamed of ropes and shadows and a voice calling her name from very far away. When she woke, sunlight was streaming through unfamiliar windows, and the smell of coffee was drifting under the door. For a disoriented moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back, the men, the fear, the revelations. The viper. She found Ho-Jun in the kitchen, looking like he hadn't slept at all. There were dark circles under his eyes, and his hair stuck up in ways that would have been cute under different circumstances. Coffee? He offered, holding up a mug. Yeah, thanks. She took it, careful not to let their fingers touch. The coffee was perfect, exactly the way she liked it, with just enough milk and sugar. Because he'd been paying attention for months, learning her preferences, being a good husband who happened to run a criminal empire. I've been thinking, Ho-Jun said, leaning against the counter, about what you said last night, about not being able to go back to normal. She waited, sipping coffee. You're right. We can't. He looked directly at her. But maybe we can go forward to something new, something honest. I'm listening, she said carefully. I can't stop being who I am overnight, he continued. The organization, the responsibilities. People depend on me. If I just walk away, there'll be chaos, maybe violence. People will get hurt. So you're saying you can't change. I'm saying I can't change fast, but he took a deep breath. I can start transitioning out, finding someone to take over gradually. It'll take time, maybe a year or two. But I can do it, if that's what you need. Analia set down her coffee mug carefully. You'd give up everything, just like that? For you? Yes. No hesitation. In a heartbeat. Don't, she said, shaking her head. Don't make grand gestures you'll resent later. If you walk away from this life because I asked you to, eventually you'll blame me for it. I wouldn't. You would. She insisted. Maybe not consciously, maybe not for years. But resentment like that, it grows. It poisons things. He looked stunned. So what are you saying? That we're done? I'm saying, she paused, organizing her thoughts. I'm saying I need to understand your world better before I can decide if I can live in it. Really understand it. Not just the sanitized version you think I can handle. Analia, some things, no secrets, she reminded him. That was the deal. He studied her for a long moment. Okay, what do you want to know? Everything, she said. Start with Franco. Over the next hour, Ho-Jun explained the network of organizations that controlled trade in the region, the delicate balance of power, the unwritten rules that kept things from descending into chaos. He told her about Franco, a small-time operator trying to move up by taking on debts he couldn't handle. The men who grabbed me, Analia said. What happens to them now? Ho-Jun's expression hardened. They're Franco's problem. I made it clear that any retaliation against you means I come for him personally. But they didn't actually hurt me, she pointed out. They were scared and stupid, but they weren't cruel. Does that matter? He looked surprised. You're defending them? No, She struggled to explain. I'm trying to understand how justice works in your world. Is it all about revenge? Or is there room for, I don't know, mercy? Mercy is how you get killed, Ho Jun said flatly. Then, seeing her face, he softened slightly. But in this case, the fact that they ran when they realized who you were, that shows they can learn. So, unless Franco's stupid enough to send them after you again, they'll probably live. Probably. Not definitely. Just probably. This was her life now, Analia realized. Conversations about who lived and died, about power and fear, and consequences she couldn't fully understand. Could she live with that? Should she? Her phone buzzed. She'd left it in the guest room overnight. Ho Jun had apparently retrieved it and left it charging on the counter. It's my sister, she said, seeing the caller ID. I should, of course. He moved to give her privacy, but she waved him to stay. Abena's voice came through bright and cheerful. Hey, stranger, you've been so quiet lately. Everything okay? Yeah, just... Analia looked at Ho Jun. Just working through some stuff with Ho Jun. Oh. Trouble in paradise? Want me to come over and tell him why he's wrong? Because I will. You know I will. Despite everything, Analia smiled. No, it's complicated. But we're talking about it. Good. Communication is important. Abena paused. Wait, you sound weird. Are you sure? Everything's okay. I promise I'll explain later, Analia said. Just not right now. Okay? Okay, but I'm holding you to that. Love you, sis. Love you too. She hung up, and Ho Jun was watching her with something unreadable in his expression. What? She asked. You could have told her, he said quietly. About last night. About what I am. You could have asked her to come get you. Take you somewhere I wouldn't find you. I could have, Analia agreed. But then what? Hide from you forever? Divorce you without understanding why I'm doing it? She shook her head. That's not who I am. Who are you then? Someone who keeps her promises, she said. And I promised to love you through better or worse. I'm just trying to figure out if this counts as worse, or if it's something else entirely. And what's the verdict so far? She considered the question seriously. I'm still here, aren't I? That made him smile. A real smile, the first since this whole mess started. Yeah, you are. Don't get too excited, she warned. I haven't decided anything yet. I'm just not running. There's a difference. I'll take what I can get. Kwame knocked on the door then, and Ho Jun went to answer it. They had a quick, quiet conversation in Korean that Analia couldn't quite follow, and when Ho Jun came back, his face was grim. Franco wants to meet, he said. Apologize in person for what his guys did. Is that normal? It's strategic. He's trying to smooth things over before I decide to make an example of him. Ho Jun sat down across from her. I have to go, have to handle this before it becomes a bigger problem. Fear spiked through her. Handle it how? Just a conversation, he assured her. I'm not going to. Franco's scared enough already. I just need to make sure he understands the consequences if anything like this happens again. Can I come with you? His head snapped up. Absolutely not. Why not? If I'm going to understand your world. No, his voice was flat. Final. This isn't something you need to see. Trust me on that. But, Analia, please! He reached across the table, stopping just short of touching her hand. Some things I can show you. Some things I can explain. But this, let me keep at least some of the ugliness away from you. Please. She wanted to argue, to insist that she could handle it. But the look in his eyes, desperate and protective and almost afraid, stopped her. Fine, she relented. But you come back here when you're done, and you tell me how it went. No sanitized version. Deal. He stood, and for a moment, she thought he might hug her or try to kiss her goodbye. But he just nodded once and headed for the door. "Ho-jun," she called out. He turned. "Be safe." The smile he gave her was sad around the edges. "Always am." Then he was gone, and Analia was alone in the too fancy apartment with her thoughts and her coffee and a future she couldn't quite picture yet. Young Ho stayed behind while Kwame went, with Ho-jun. Apparently, she raided bodyguard protection now too. He stationed himself outside the apartment door, silent and professional, while Analia paced the living room trying not to imagine what her husband was doing. A conversation, he'd said. Just a conversation. But the Viper's conversations probably weren't like normal people's conversations, were they? She tried to distract herself by exploring the apartment, opened closets full of expensive clothes she'd never seen Ho-jun wear, found a study with wall-to-wall books, discovered a kitchen stocked with ingredients she'd only dreamed of using. This was clearly a place he kept separate from their real life, a space for the other version of himself. How many versions of Kim Ho-jun were there? The sweet husband who couldn't cook to save his life. The feared criminal called the Viper. The son who'd sacrificed everything for his family. The man who'd built an empire on fear but somehow still cried at sad movies. Her phone rang. Again. Not her sister this time, but an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Hello? Mrs. Kim?" A woman's voice, professional. "My name is Yoonji. I work with your husband. He asked me to call and make sure you had everything you needed." "I'm fine," Analia said carefully. "Thanks for checking. If you'd like, I can have food delivered, or arrange transportation if you need to collect anything from your apartment." "Wait, you work with him?" Analia interrupted. "As in the organization?" A pause. "I manage certain operational aspects, yes." "Are you?" Analia wasn't sure how to ask this. "Are you scared of him? Of Ho-jun?" Another pause, longer this time. "May I be honest with you, Mrs. Kim? Please." "I've worked for Mr. Kim for 3 years," Yoonji said slowly. "I've seen him angry. I've seen him make decisions that had to be made. And yes, he can be intimidating when he needs to be. But scared of him? No." Her voice softened slightly. "He's fair. He protects his people. And he has lines he won't cross, which is rare in this business." "What kind of lines?" "He doesn't hurt families, doesn't deal in things that harm children, doesn't go after people who can't fight back." Yoonji paused. "I had a sister once. She got caught up with bad people, people who didn't have lines like Mr. Kim's. By the time I found out, it was too late." "I'm sorry," Analia said quietly. "Me too. But my point is, when Mr. Kim offered me a job, I researched him thoroughly. I needed to know exactly what kind of man I'd be working for. And what I found was someone who's dangerous. Yes, but also someone with a code. Someone who tries to be better than the world expects him to be." Yoonji cleared her throat, professional again. "Anyway, if you need anything at all, you have my number now. Don't hesitate to call." After they hung up, Analia stood by the window looking out at the city and thinking about codes and lines and what it meant to be dangerous in a world that demanded it. Ho-jun came back 2 hours later, looking tired, but unhurt. Analia heard him talking quietly with Young-ho in the hallway before the door opened. "How did it go?" she asked immediately. He shrugged off his jacket, and she noticed his knuckles were red but not bleeding. "Franco understands the situation now. He's relocating his operations away from this region and his guys from last night. They're leaving the country entirely. Voluntarily. Voluntarily, she repeated skeptically. I suggested it might be healthier for them. They agreed. He met her eyes. Nobody got seriously hurt. Franco's pride, maybe, but he'll recover. And if he doesn't? If he decides to come after you for embarrassing him? Then I'll handle it, Ho-jun said simply. But I don't think he will. Franco's ambitious, not suicidal. He walked to the kitchen, poured himself water, and drank it like he'd been walking through a desert. Analia noticed the slight tremble in his hands, adrenaline wearing off probably. You were scared, she observed. He looked surprised. What? Just now. Meeting Franco. You were nervous about it. He set down the glass. Yeah, I was. Because if it had gone wrong, if Franco had been stupid enough to try something, I would have had to respond. And I didn't want to be that person today. Not with you waiting here, wondering what kind of man you married. So, what did you do instead? I gave him a choice, Ho-jun said. Leave peacefully and we're square, or stay and find out why people call me the Viper. He chose peace. Because you're terrifying. Because he's smart. He moved closer to her, stopping a respectful distance away. Analia, I need you to understand something. The fear, it's not about making people suffer. It's about making them choose not to fight. Most of the time, nobody gets hurt because nobody's willing to find out if the stories about me are true. And when someone is willing, she asked quietly. His expression went cold, distant, the Viper looking out through her husband's eyes. Then the stories turn out to be true. A chill ran down her spine. This was what she'd asked for, wasn't it? The truth, unfiltered. But knowing and knowing were different things. I think I need some air, she said. We can go to the roof. It's private up there. Can I go alone? At his concerned look, she added, just for a few minutes. I just need to think. He hesitated, clearly torn between giving her space and his protective instincts. Finally, he nodded. Roof access is through the study. Code is 0924. She wanted to ask what the numbers meant, but maybe some mysteries could wait. Thanks. The roof garden was beautiful in an impersonal way. Carefully maintained plants and geometric patterns, furniture that looked like it came from a catalog, a view that went on for miles. Analia sat on a bench and tried to sort through the chaos in her head. Facts. She loved Ho-jun. She'd loved him before, knowing the truth, and that love hadn't just evaporated overnight. Facts. He'd lied by omission for months. He'd let her marry him without understanding what that meant. Facts. He was dangerous. He'd built his safety, and hers, on fear and the threat of violence. Facts. He was trying. Really trying to be honest now, even when the truth made him look terrible. Facts. She had no idea what to do with any of this. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ho-jun, even though he was just downstairs. Take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready. Such a simple message, but it made her eyes sting with tears. Because that was her husband. Patient, understanding, willing to wait even when waiting must be killing him. She texted back, "Thank you." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "I love you. That's not conditional on what you decide. I just need you to know." Analia tucked her phone away and looked out at the city spread below. Her millions of people living millions of lives, each one complicated in ways nobody else could see. From up here, it all looked simple, peaceful. But she knew better now. Nothing was simple. Nobody was just one thing. She stayed up there until the sun started setting, painting the sky in oranges and purples that reminded her of home, of her mother's kitchen, and simpler times. Then she took a deep breath and headed back downstairs. Ho-jun was exactly where she'd left him, sitting on the couch with a book he clearly wasn't reading. He looked up when she entered, hope and fear warring in his expression. "I'm not leaving," Analia said without preamble. "Not yet, anyway. But things need to change." He stood up immediately. "Whatever you need, just tell me. First, you need to tell your mother about us being married, about me." She'd been thinking about this on the roof. He'd mentioned his mother briefly, but Analia had never actually met her. "I can't be your secret wife. If we're doing this, we're doing it properly." He winced. "My mother. She's not going to be happy that I married someone she hasn't met. Or that you're not Korean. Or that I didn't ask her permission first." "I don't need her permission," Analia said firmly. "But I need to meet her. To try to build something real, she has to be part of it." "Okay," he agreed after a moment. "I'll arrange it. Second, I want to meet Yoonji and whoever else is important in your organization. I want to see the people you work with, understand what you actually do all day." At his hesitant look, she added, "I'm not asking to sit in on anything illegal. Just let me see the real version of your life." "I can do that," he said slowly. "But Analia, some of these people, they're not going to understand why I'm bringing my wife around. It'll raise questions." "Let them question. I'm tired of being kept separate, like I'm too delicate to handle reality." A small smile tugged at his mouth. "You're definitely not delicate. Third," she continued, "we're going to counseling, real counseling, with someone who understands complicated marriages. I don't think therapists are supposed to know about." "Then we find one who can handle it," she interrupted. "Or we talk around the specifics. But Ho-jun, we can't fix this alone. We need help." He nodded slowly. "Okay. Yes, whatever you think is best. And last," she took a breath, "you're going to teach me self-defense, real defense, not just some basic class. If I'm going to be the Viper's wife, I need to be able to protect myself." This time he did smile, genuinely. "I think I can arrange that." "These are my terms," Analia said. "Non-negotiable. And if at any point you slip back into keeping secrets or trying to protect me by hiding things, we're done. Understand?" "I understand." He took a step toward her, then stopped. Can I hug you? Or is that?" She closed the distance and wrapped her arms around him, feeling him exhale in relief as he held her carefully, like she might break. "I'm still angry," she mumbled into his chest. "I know. And I still don't know if this is going to work." "I know that too. But I'm willing to try, for now. That's all I can ask for." He pressed his face into her hair. "Thank you for not giving up on me yet." They stood like that for a long moment, holding each other in the ridiculous penthouse apartment that represented everything she'd never wanted, but somehow ended up with anyway. "Can we go home?" Analia asked finally. "To our actual apartment? I miss our bed and our terrible water pressure and everything being normal. Are you sure? It might not be as safe." "I need normal right now," she insisted. "Just for tonight. Please." He kissed the top of her head, a careful, chaste gesture that still made her heart ache. "Okay, let's go home." Their apartment had never looked better, even with the leaky faucet and the neighbors playing music too loud and the refrigerator that hummed off-key. Analia went straight to the bedroom, changed into her comfortable clothes, and collapsed onto their familiar bed. Ho-jun hovered in the doorway. "Should I sleep on the couch?" "Don't be stupid," she said. "This is your bed, too." He changed carefully, keeping his back turned like they were strangers, then slid under the covers on his side. They lay there in the dark, inches apart but not touching, listening to the familiar sounds of their neighborhood. "Ho-jun," she said quietly. "Yeah, tell me something true, something you've never told anyone else." He was quiet for so long she thought he might not answer. Then, sometimes, I'm afraid I'm becoming my father. He borrowed from dangerous people because he thought he could handle it, thought he was smart enough to stay ahead of them. And I look at my life, at the risks I take, and I wonder if I'm doing the same thing. If I'm so caught up in being the viper that I've forgotten how to just be me. Analia rolled over to face him, even though she could barely see his outline in the dark. And who's that? Who's the real you? I don't know anymore, he admitted. I thought I was figuring it out with you, building something different. But maybe I was just playing pretend. Or maybe, she said slowly, you're both. The viper and the guy who makes me terrible breakfast. Maybe you don't have to choose. How can you be so understanding about this? I'm not, she said honestly. I'm terrified and confused, and part of me wants to pack a bag and run to my sister's place and never look back. But another part of me remembers why I fell in love with you in the first place. And that part, it's not ready to give up. She felt him reach across the space between them, his hand finding hers in the dark. I don't deserve you. Probably not, she agreed, squeezing his fingers. But you've got me anyway, at least for now. They fell asleep like that, holding hands across the pillow, and for a few hours at least, everything felt almost normal again. Morning came with its usual chaos, the neighbor's dog barking, someone's alarm going off through the thin walls, sunlight streaming through curtains that didn't quite close properly. Analia woke to find Ho-jun already up, making breakfast in the kitchen. Well, making was generous. Burning was more accurate. How do you mess up toast? She asked, appearing in the doorway. It's literally the simplest food. He jumped, spatula clattering into the sink. I thought you were still sleeping. I wanted to surprise you. Mission accomplished, she said, looking at the charred bread. I'm very surprised. Despite everything, despite all the heavy conversations and revelations, they both smiled. And just like that, a tiny bit of normal crept back in. Let me, Analia said, gently pushing him aside. Go sit down before you burn down the apartment. While she salvaged breakfast, eggs, fresh toast, sliced mango, Ho-jun sat at their small table and watched her with an expression she couldn't quite read. What? She asked, plating the food. I missed this. Yesterday felt like a lifetime. It kind of was, she agreed, sitting across from him. Different lifetime, different us. They ate in comfortable silence for a while before Ho-jun spoke again. I called my mother this morning, while you were sleeping. Analia's fork froze halfway to her mouth. And she wants to meet you. Today, if possible. He grimaced. She's not pleased I didn't tell her sooner. Or ask for her blessing. Or introduce you properly. She had a lot of opinions about my choices. I bet. Analia set down her fork. What did you tell her about me? That you're brilliant and kind, and you make food that would make her jealous. He smiled slightly. That you've been patient with me even when I didn't deserve it. That I love you more than I've ever loved anything. Did you tell her what I do? Where I'm from? I told her you're a chef who creates fusion dishes that blow people's minds. That you're from Cape Coast originally, but you've been here for 5 years building your business. He met her eyes. I didn't tell her about your family or your background, because I wanted you to share what you're comfortable sharing. This is your story to tell. That was actually thoughtful. Thank you. She's going to judge you, he warned. My mother, she's traditional. She had specific ideas about who I should marry, and you're not going to match any of them. But that's not your problem. It's hers. And yours, Analia pointed out. You're stuck in the middle. I chose you, he said simply. She'll accept that or she won't. But it doesn't change anything. Brave words, and Alea hoped he meant them. They took the bus to his mother's house. Ho Jun's idea, actually. She lives in the old neighborhood, he explained. It's not fancy. I offered to buy her a place in the city, but she refused. The house was small, but immaculate, with a garden out front bursting with vegetables and flowers. An older woman was kneeling in the dirt, pulling weeds, and when she heard them approach, she stood slowly. Mrs. Kim was smaller than Analia expected, barely 5 feet tall, with iron gray hair pulled back severely and eyes that could probably cut glass. She looked her son up and down, said something sharp in Korean, then turned that laser gaze on Analia. So, she said in accented English, you're the girl who married my son without bothering to meet me first. Not exactly a warm welcome. Analia squared her shoulders. Yes, ma'am. I'm Analia. It's nice to finally meet you. Mrs. Kim's eyebrow rose. Is it? Even though I'm clearly angry. Especially because you're angry, Analia said honestly. You have every right to be. If someone married my son without telling me, I'd be furious too. That seemed to catch Mrs. Kim off guard. She studied Analia for a long moment, then made a dismissive gesture. Inside, you're letting bugs into my garden. The house smelled like ginger and sesame oil and old paper. Mrs. Kim led them to a small sitting room and gestured for them to sit, while she disappeared into the kitchen. That went, okay, Ho Jun whispered. She didn't throw us out, Analia whispered back. I'm counting it as a win. Mrs. Kim returned with tea and small rice cakes, setting them down with precise movements. She sat across from them and poured tea with the kind of ritual care that made Analia think this was some kind of test. My son says you're a chef, Mrs. Kim said, not looking up from the tea. What kind of food do you make? Fusion, mostly, Analia answered. I take traditional recipes from Cape Coast, that's where I'm from originally, and combine them with Korean flavors, like jollof rice with gochugaru or wakki with kimchi. Mrs. Kim's hand stilled. You mix African food with Korean food? Yes, ma'am. Why? It was an honest question, not accusatory. Analia thought about how to answer. Because both cuisines are about family and history and love. They come from different places, but they speak the same language, feeding people, bringing them together. Mixing them felt right, like they were meant to find each other. Ho Jun made a small sound, and when Analia glanced at him, his eyes were suspiciously bright. Mrs. Kim sipped her tea thoughtfully. And my son, how did you meet him? At a night market, Analia said, smiling at the memory. I had a small stall selling my fusion dishes. He bought 3 plates, came back for more, then asked if I'd teach him to cook. Can you cook? Mrs. Kim asked her son in Korean. No, he admitted in the same language, but I wanted an excuse to talk to her. His mother actually smiled, just a tiny quirk of her mouth, but it was there. At least you're honest about being useless in the kitchen. They slipped into Korean then, talking rapidly, while Analia sat there feeling lost. She caught her name a few times and words that might have been marriage and family, but mostly she just waited and tried not to look as anxious as she felt. Finally, Mrs. Kim switched back to English. My son tells me you're angry with him for keeping secrets. Analia shot Ho Jun a look. Did he have to share everything? But answered honestly. Yes, ma'am. He wasn't completely honest about his work, about what his life is really like. And now that you know, now I'm trying to decide if I can live with it, Analia said quietly. If I can be married to someone whose job is complicated. Complicated, Mrs. Kim repeated with a bitter laugh. That's a kind word for it. She set down her teacup with a sharp click. Let me tell you something, Analia. My husband, Ho Jun's father, he was a good man. Honest, hard-working, wanted the best for his family. But good men can make bad choices when they're desperate. Mother, Ho Jun said quietly, you don't have to. She should know, Mrs. Kim interrupted. She should understand where this all comes from. She turned back to Analia. When my husband died, he left us with nothing but debts and danger. My older son, he couldn't handle it. Too soft, too kind. But Ho Jun, her expression softened slightly. Ho Jun became someone else, someone hard enough to survive. I did what I had to do, Ho Jun said quietly. Yes, you did. Mrs. Kim reached across and patted his hand, a brief, almost reluctant gesture. You saved us. You protected your brother, kept me safe, paid off debts that weren't yours to pay, and I'm grateful. But I also grieve for the boy you were before all this, the one who wanted to be a teacher, who loved books more than business. Analia looked at Ho Jun in surprise. You wanted to be a teacher? He wouldn't meet her eyes. A long time ago. It doesn't matter now. It matters, his mother said firmly. Then to Analia, my son gave up his dreams for this family, and now he's asking you to give up yours for him. So my question is, are you strong enough to love someone who carries this much darkness? The directness took Analia's breath away. I don't know yet, but I'm trying to find out. Mrs. Kim nodded slowly. An honest answer. Good. She stood, signaling the meeting was over. You're not what I would have chosen for him. But then, I didn't choose you. He did. And my son, for all his faults, has always had good instincts about who to trust. It wasn't exactly a blessing, but it wasn't a rejection either. Analia would take it. At the door, Mrs. Kim pulled her aside while Ho Jun waited in the garden. One more thing, she said quietly. This life my son leads, it's dangerous. Not just for him, but for everyone around him. If you stay, you need to go in with eyes open. Understand? I'm starting to, Analia said. Good. Mrs. Kim pressed something into her hand, a small jade pendant on a chain. This was mine when I was young. It's meant to protect against harm, probably. Superstition, but she shrugged. Keep it anyway. You'll need all the luck you can get. Analia clutched the pendant, surprised by the gesture. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Mrs. Kim said wryly. You haven't survived a family dinner. That's when I'll know if you're truly tough enough. On the bus ride home, Ho Jun kept glancing at the pendant around Analia's neck. She gave you that? Yeah. What does it mean? It means she likes you, he said, sounding amazed. She wore that every day when I was growing up. I've never seen her take it off, let alone give it to someone else. Maybe she's just being polite. My mother is never just polite, Ho Jun said. Trust me, this is huge. Analia touched the pendant, feeling its smooth surface. One small victory in a war she was still fighting to understand. That afternoon, true to his word, Ho Jun took her to meet Yoonji. The woman turned out to be younger than Analia expected, maybe early 30s, with sharp eyes and an even, sharper suit. They met at a cafe in the business district, neutral territory. Yoonji stood when they approached, bowing slightly to Ho Jun, before turning to Analia with a warm smile. Mrs. Kim, it's wonderful to finally meet you in person. Just Analia, please, she said, shaking Yoonji's hand. And same. Thanks for talking to me yesterday. Of course. Yoonji waited until they'd all sat down before continuing. Mr. Kim explained that you wanted to understand more about our operations. I've prepared some information that might help, though obviously I can't share everything. I understand, Analia said. Over coffee, Yoonji laid out the basics, how the organization managed shipping routes, negotiated with various groups, handled disputes. She made it sound almost boring, like regular business, except for the occasional mentions of territorial agreements and enforcement protocols that reminded Analia this definitely wasn't regular business. "How did you end up working for Ho-jun?" Analia asked at one point. Yoonji glanced at Ho-jun, who nodded permission. "I was working for a logistics company that got caught up in some trouble. Bad trouble. Mr. Kim helped resolve the situation, and afterward, he offered me a job. Said I was too smart to waste my skills somewhere that didn't appreciate them." "And you weren't worried about the nature of the work?" "I was terrified," Yoonji admitted with a slight smile. "But I researched Mr. Kim's reputation thoroughly. He's known for 3 things: being extremely effective, being surprisingly fair, and keeping his word. In this world, that's rarer than you'd think." "What she's not mentioning," Ho-jun added, "is that she's revolutionized how we handle operations. Cut costs by 30%, reduced conflicts by half, and somehow made everything run smoother." Yoonji looked pleased but waved it off. "I just applied standard efficiency principles. The fact that nobody else thought to do it says more about the industry than about me." They talked for another hour, and Analia found herself actually liking Yoonji. She was smart, professional, and refreshingly honest about the realities of working in Ho-jun's world. "One last question," Analia said as they were wrapping up. "Do you think what we do, what Ho-jun does, is wrong?" Yoonji considered this carefully. "I think the world is more complicated than right and wrong. Mr. Kim provides services that people need, protects communities that the law ignores, and creates order where there would otherwise be chaos. Is it legal? No. Is it ethical?" She shrugged. "That depends on your framework for ethics. But I sleep fine at night knowing I work for someone who has principles, even if they're not conventional ones." After Yoonji left, Analia and Ho-jun walked through the city, letting the crowds flow around them. "What do you think?" he asked nervously. "I think," Analia said slowly, "that your world is more complicated than I imagined, but also less evil than I feared. Evil is such a strong word. Morally gray, then." She bumped his shoulder with hers. "Very gray. Can you live with gray?" She thought about Mrs. Kim's pendant against her skin, about Yoonji's careful explanations, about the man beside her who'd given up his dreams to save his family. "I'm not sure yet, but I'm less scared than I was yesterday, so that's progress." He took her hand carefully, like he was afraid she might pull away. When she didn't, his grip tightened slightly. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for trying, for not running." "Don't thank me yet," she echoed his mother's words. "I haven't survived a family dinner." He laughed, real and surprised, and for a moment they were just a couple walking through the city, holding hands and stealing moments of happiness wherever they could find them. The next week fell into a strange new wave. Ho-jun went to work like always, except now Analia knew what work actually meant. She reopened her restaurant. The new owner had been surprisingly understanding about her emergency closure and threw herself into creating new dishes. Cooking had always been her therapy, and she needed it now more than ever. She also started self-defense training. Ho-jun brought in an instructor named Kofi, a quiet man with quick hands and quicker reflexes, who didn't ask questions about why a chef suddenly needed to learn how to break someone's grip or escape from a hold. "You're thinking too much," Kofi said during their 3rd session, after Analia had fumbled another technique. "Defense is about instinct, not planning." "I'm a chef," Analia protested, breathing hard. "I plan everything, then unlearn it. Here, again." They were in a private gym Ho-jun owned, another property she hadn't known about. Everything these days felt like discovering hidden rooms in a house she thought she knew. After training, sweaty and sore, she found Ho-jun waiting in the lobby. He'd brought smoothies and towels, and the domestic normalcy of it made her smile despite her aching muscles. "How was it?" he asked. "Painful," she admitted. "But good. Kofi says I have potential, which probably means I'm terrible, but he's too polite to say so." "Kofi never lies," Ho-jun said seriously. "If he says you have potential, he means it." They drove home together, and Analia watched the city pass by the window, thinking about potential and choices and all the ways her life had shifted in just a few days. "Can I ask you something?" she said eventually. "Always. Do you regret it? Becoming the Viper? Giving up teaching?" He was quiet for a long moment. "I regret that I had to choose, but I don't regret the choice I made. My family needed me, and I was there for them. That matters. But what about what you needed?" "I needed them to be safe," he said simply. Everything else was secondary. Analia reached over and took his hand. "You're a good man, Ho-jun, even when you're being a criminal." He laughed, surprised. "That might be the strangest compliment I've ever received." "Get used to strange," she said. "That's our life now, apparently." Friday night, Ho-jun came home looking troubled. Analia was in the kitchen experimenting with a new fusion dish, groundnut soup with Korean chili paste, and she knew immediately something was wrong. "What happened?" she asked, turning down the heat. "There's a situation," he said carefully. "With one of our shipments, some new group is trying to move in on our territory, and they're playing dirty." Her stomach tightened. "Dangerous dirty?" "Potentially. I need to handle it this weekend." He watched her face. "I wanted to tell you before I just disappeared. No more secrets." "How dangerous is potentially?" "Probably just posturing," he said. "New groups always push boundaries, test what they can get away with. Once we push back, they'll usually retreat." "And if they don't retreat?" His jaw set. "Then it becomes a problem. But I've handled worse." Analia turned off the stove completely and walked over to him. "I don't like this. I know that's obvious, but I'm saying it anyway. I hate that you have to go deal with people who might hurt you. I'll have Kwame and Young-ho with me, plus 3 others. I'm not going in alone or stupid." He cupped her face gently. "I'll be careful. I promise." "You better be," she said fiercely. "Because if something happens to you, I'll be really angry." "Not sad? Just angry?" "Both," she admitted. "Devastatingly sad and furiously angry. So don't make me feel either of those things." He kissed her forehead, and she let herself lean into him for a moment, breathing in his familiar scent and trying not to think about all the ways this weekend could go wrong. Saturday dragged by. Analia tried to work on new recipes, tried to read, tried to do anything except stare at her phone waiting for updates. Ho-jun had texted twice, once in the morning saying everything was fine, once at lunch saying the same thing. Radio silence since then. By evening, she was pacing the apartment like a caged animal. She called Yoonji, who answered on the second ring. "He's okay," Yoonji said immediately. "Negotiations are taking longer than expected, but everyone's still talking, which is good." "How do you know?" "I'm monitoring communications. It's part of my job." Yoonji's voice softened slightly. "He's good at this, Mrs. Kim, and he's got good people with him. Try not to worry." "Easy for you to say," Analia muttered. "Actually, it's not," Yoonji said quietly. "I've lost people in this business. Good people. So when I say, don't worry, I mean I genuinely believe he'll be fine. Not just telling you what you want to hear." After they hung up, Analia felt marginally better. She made herself dinner, the fusion soup from yesterday, which had turned out better than expected, and was just cleaning up when her phone rang. Ho-jun's name flashed across the screen. "Hey," she answered, trying to sound casual. "How's it going?" "It's handled," he said, and she could hear the exhaustion in his voice. "Deal's made. Boundaries are clear. Everyone goes home happy." "Are you hurt?" "Not even a little. Just tired from talking in circles for 6 hours." He yawned. "I'm heading home now. Should be there in about 40 minutes. I'll wait up." "You don't have to." "I'm waiting up," she said firmly. "Drive safe." When he finally walked through the door, he looked exactly as tired as he'd sounded. Analia had soup waiting, and he ate it gratefully while telling her about the negotiations, carefully editing out anything too specific or dangerous. "The leader of the new group," Ho-jun said, "turns out he's originally from Cape Coast. When I mentioned that you make fusion dishes combining African and Korean flavors, his whole attitude changed. Started asking about recipes instead of territories." Analia laughed despite herself. Food diplomacy. Who knew? "You'd be surprised how often sharing a meal changes everything," he said seriously. "Half of my deals get made over dinner. Maybe I should start coming to these meetings. Cook for everyone." "Absolutely not," he said immediately, then caught her expression. "I mean, if you really wanted to, we could discuss it. But I'd rather keep you separate from that part of things." "Because I'm too delicate?" "Because you're too good," he corrected. "That world, it changes people, Analia. I don't want it to change you." She understood what he meant, even if she didn't entirely agree. "I'm tougher than you think." "I know you are. You married me, didn't you?" He finished the soup and stretched. "Thank you for this. For waiting up. For feeding me. For not being angry that I was gone all day." "I was a little angry," she admitted, "and a lot scared. But mostly I just wanted you home safe." They went to bed together, and this time when they lay in the dark, Analia curled into his side, letting herself find comfort in his presence. "I've been thinking," she said quietly. "About? About what you said. About transitioning out of this life eventually." She felt him tense slightly. "I don't think you should." "What?" "But you said." "I said a lot of things when I was angry and confused," Analia interrupted. "But I've been watching you this week, talking to Yoonji and your mother, learning about what you actually do. And I think you're good at this. Not just effective, but good. You help people who don't have other options. You create order in chaos. And if you walk away, someone worse might fill that space." He was very still. "So you're saying?" "I'm saying I can live with you being the Viper, as long as you keep being Ho-jun too, as long as you don't let the darkness swallow everything else." She propped herself up to look at him in the dim light. "But I have conditions." "Name them." "No more secrets. Ever. Even if you think I can't handle it." "Agreed. I want monthly check-ins with Yoonji or someone you trust. Someone who can give me an objective view of how things are going, whether you're staying safe. I can arrange that. And..." She hesitated. "I want to be more involved. Not in the dangerous stuff, but in the legitimate parts. The restaurants you protect, the small businesses in your territory. Let me help make those better." He stared at her. "You want to improve my criminal empire?" "I want to help the people in your territory," she corrected. "Make sure they're getting fair treatment, that the businesses are thriving. You control the area anyway. Might as well make it better for everyone, right?" A slow smile spread across his face. "You're incredible. You know that?" "I'm practical," she said. "And I'm a chef. I fix things, make them better. This is just a different kind of recipe." He pulled her down for a kiss. Their first real kiss since everything had changed. It was sweet and careful and full of promise. "I love you," he said against her lips, "even when you're completely reorganizing my entire operation." "Especially then," she said, smiling. "Get used to it." Sunday morning brought unexpected visitors. Analia was making breakfast, properly this time, without Ho-jun's help, when the doorbell rang. Ho-jun answered it, and she heard his surprised exclamation. "What are you doing here?" "Can't a brother visit?" an unfamiliar voice replied. Analia peeked around the corner to see a man who looked like a softer version of Ho-jun, same features but gentler, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Dae-hyun," Ho-jun said, and there was genuine warmth in his voice. "Come in. I want you to meet someone." His brother stepped inside, looking around the modest apartment with approval. When he saw Analia, his face broke into a wide smile. "You must be Analia. Mother told me about you." "Nothing too terrible, I hope," she said, wiping her hands on a towel. "On the contrary, she hasn't stopped talking about your fusion cooking." Dae-hyun came forward, bowing slightly. "I'm Dae-hyun, the boring brother who runs a bookstore." "Boring is good," Analia said warmly. "Boring is underrated." They had breakfast together, scrambled eggs, toast that wasn't burnt, fresh fruit, and Dae-hyun regaled them with stories from his bookstore. He was funny and self-deprecating, and Analia could see why Ho-jun had worked so hard to protect him. "So," Dae-hyun said eventually, his tone shifting to something more serious. "Mother says you know about what Ho-jun does." "I know," Analia confirmed. "And you're okay with it?" She exchanged a glance with Ho-jun. "I'm working on being okay with it. It's complicated." "Everything about my brother is complicated," Dae-hyun said fondly. "But I can tell you this, he's the best man I know. Everything he's done, every choice he's made, it's been to protect people. That counts for something." "It counts for a lot," Analia agreed. After Dae-hyun left, with a bag full of leftovers and a promise to visit again soon, Ho-jun pulled Analia into his arms. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For being kind to him. For not. I don't know. For not judging our whole family based on what I do." "Your family is not defined by your work," Analia said firmly. "Your mother is defined by her garden and her fierce love. Your brother is defined by his bookstore and his gentle heart. And you," she touched his face, "you're defined by how much you care, even when you're pretending to be scary." He rested his forehead against hers. "How did I get so lucky?" "You bought 3 plates of my fusion food," she reminded him, "and came back for more. That's how." They stood there in their small kitchen, holding each other, and Analia thought about all the different ways love could look. It wasn't always simple or clean or easy to explain to other people. Sometimes it was messy and complicated and required you to accept things you never thought you could, but it was real, and maybe that was enough. 2 months passed. Analia settled into her new reality. Days spent cooking at the restaurant, evenings with Ho-jun, weekly training sessions with Kofi that left her stronger and more confident. She started her community project too, visiting small businesses in Ho-jun's territory and offering advice on everything from menu planning to financial management. The owners were wary at first, until word spread that the Viper's wife was actually there to help, not threaten. Soon she was being invited to grand openings, asked for recommendations, treated like an honored guest wherever she went. "You're building your own empire," Yoonji observed one afternoon over coffee. "Just a nicer one than Mr. Kim's." "It's not an empire," Analia protested. "I'm just helping people." "That's what all the best leaders say." Things were good. Better than good, actually. Analia and Ho-jun had found their rhythm, learned how to be honest with each other even when it was hard. He told her about his days, she told him about hers, and they built something real in the spaces between. Then everything changed again. It started with a woman showing up at Analia's restaurant on a Tuesday evening. She was beautiful, tall, elegant, with sharp features and sharper eyes. She sat at a table in the back and ordered nothing, just watched Analia work. Finally, during a lull, Analia approached her. "Can I get you anything? A menu, maybe?" "Actually," the woman said in lightly accented English, "I'm here to talk about your husband." Every alarm bell in Analia's head started ringing. "I'm sorry. Who are you?" "My name is Seo Yeon," the woman said, standing. "And I was engaged to Kim Ho-jun before you were." The world tilted. "Excuse me. It was years ago, obviously, before he met you. But I think you should know about it." Seo Yeon's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Can we talk? Privately?" Against her better judgment, Analia led her to the small office in back. Her hands were shaking, but she kept her voice steady. "Explain. Now." "Ho-jun and I were promised to each other when we were young," Seo Yeon said, settling into a chair like she owned it. "Our families arranged it, very traditional. We were together for 2 years, planning a wedding, building a future. Then suddenly he ended things. Said he couldn't marry me, wouldn't explain why." "When was this?" 5 years ago, right around when he took over his father's business interests. Seo Yeon examined her nails. "I was heartbroken, naturally. Spent years trying to understand what I'd done wrong. Then recently, I heard he'd married someone." "You?" Analia's mind raced. 5 years ago. That was before she'd even met Ho-jun, but he'd never mentioned an ex-fiancée, never said anything about. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because you deserve to know who you married," Seo Yeon said simply. "He broke my heart without explanation. Who's to say he won't do the same to you? Get out!" Seo Yeon raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me." "I said get out." Analia stood, opening the door. "I don't know what you're playing at, but I'm not interested. If you have issues with Ho-jun, take them up with him. Don't come to my restaurant spreading doubt." For a moment, Seo Yeon looked genuinely surprised. Then she smiled. A real smile this time, almost approving. "Interesting. You're tougher than you look." "You have no idea," Analia said flatly. "Now leave before I have you removed." After Seo Yeon left, Analia stood in her office, hands pressed against the desk, trying to calm her racing heart. An ex-fiancé, an arranged marriage. How many other secrets was she going to discover? She called Ho-jun immediately. "We need to talk. Tonight." "What's wrong?" Concern flooded his voice. "Just come home early. Please." He was there in 40 minutes, breathless like he'd run the whole way. "What happened? Are you okay?" "Why didn't you tell me you were engaged before?" Analia asked without preamble. His face went pale. "How did you? So it's true!" She laughed bitterly. "Great. What else haven't you told me?" "Analia, let me explain." "By all means," she said, crossing her arms. "Explain why another woman had to tell me about your ex-fiancée." He ran a hand through his hair, looking genuinely distressed. "Her name was Seo Yeon. Our families arranged the engagement when I was 23. It was supposed to be a business merger. Her father ran shipping routes in the South. My father needed his connections. And I went along with it because that's what dutiful sons did. We dated, planned a wedding, did everything we were supposed to." He met her eyes. "But I didn't love her, Analia. Not the way I love you. She was nice. We got along fine. But there was no spark, no connection. So you just broke it off?" "When my father died and I took over his debts, I realized I couldn't drag her into that world. It wouldn't have been fair." She thought she was marrying a legitimate businessman, not someone who'd become. He gestured vaguely. This. So I ended things, told her we weren't compatible, and walked away. Analia studied his face. Does she know about what you do? I don't think so. Her family stayed in legitimate business as far as I know. We haven't spoken in years. Until now, Analia said. She showed up at my restaurant today. Said you broke her heart without explanation. Ho Jun's expression darkened. She what? Did she threaten you? No, just planted doubt. Made sure I knew you had a history of keeping secrets. Analia sank onto the couch. And the worst part is, she's right. You did keep this secret. What else don't I know? Nothing, he said desperately, sitting beside her but not touching. I swear, Analia, there's nothing else. The engagement was before I met you, before I became who I am now. I didn't mention it because it felt irrelevant, just another part of my past I left behind. Except your past keeps showing up, she pointed out. First your work, now your ex. What's next? I don't know, he admitted, but I'll handle Seo Yan. She shouldn't have approached you. Don't? Analia held up a hand. Don't go all viper on her. She didn't do anything wrong, technically. She just told me something you should have mentioned months ago. He looked miserable. You're right. I should have told you. I wanted to keep the past separate from what we have. Stupid, I know. They sat in silence for a while, the weight of unspoken things heavy between them. Do you still have feelings for her? Analia asked quietly. No, God, no. Ho Jun turned to face her fully. Analia, what I had with Seo Yan was obligation, duty. With you, it's choice. Every day I choose you. Choose us. Choose this messy, complicated life we're building. That's the difference. She wanted to believe him. She did believe him, actually. But trust was fragile, and every new revelation cracked it a little more. I need time, she said finally. Not to leave. Just to process. Again. Take all the time you need, he said immediately. I'm not going anywhere. The next few days were tense. They were polite to each other, careful, like they were walking on ice that might crack at any moment. Analia threw herself into work, and Ho Jun gave her space while visibly hating every second of it. Then, Seo Yan showed up again, this time at the apartment, waiting in the lobby when Analia came home from the restaurant. She looked different, less polished, more uncertain. I owe you an apology, Seo Yan said without preamble. What I did, coming to your restaurant, it was petty and wrong. Analia was too tired to be angry. What do you want? To explain, maybe? Or just to understand? Seo Yan gestured to the coffee shop across the street. Can you give me 10 minutes? Against her better judgment, Analia agreed. Over terrible coffee, Seo Yan told her story. How she'd loved Ho Jun genuinely, how his sudden departure had devastated her, how she'd spent years wondering what she'd done wrong. Then I heard he'd married someone, Seo Yan continued, and I was jealous, I guess. Wanted to see who he'd chosen over me, wanted to understand what you had that I didn't. And, Analia asked, and now that I've seen you, talked to you, I get it. Seo Yan smiled sadly. You're nothing like me. You're real, grounded, strong in ways I never was. Ho Jun needed someone who could handle his darkness, and that was never going to be me. He told me he ended things to protect you, Analia said, from what his life became. That sounds like him, Seo Yan agreed. Noble to a fault, even when it's painful. She finished her coffee. I'm not here to cause problems, Analia. I just wanted closure, I think. Needed to see that he was happy, that my heartbreak wasn't for nothing. Is he? Happy? With you? Yes. Absolutely. Seo Yan stood to leave. Take care of him, and let him take care of you. that stubborn protectiveness. It comes from love, even when it's annoying. After she left, Analia sat in the coffee shop and thought about love in all its forms. The obligatory kind, the chosen kind, the messy, complicated kind that required you to keep showing up even when it was hard. She went home and found Ho-jun cooking dinner. Well, attempting to cook. The kitchen was a disaster. "What are you making?" she asked. He jumped, dropping the spatula. "I was trying to surprise you with jollof rice, but I think I've created some kind of crime against food." She looked at the pot. He'd somehow managed to both burn it and make it watery. "That's impressive. Terribly impressive." "I'm sorry," he blurted out. "Not just for the rice, for everything. For not telling you about Seo-yeon, for keeping secrets, for making your life complicated." "Stop!" Analia interrupted. "Just stop apologizing." He looked crushed. "But I need you to know, I talked to Seo-yeon today," she said. She apologized, explained, and I realized something. What? That everyone has a past. Everyone has secrets they think are too small to mention until they become big problems. She moved closer to him. "You didn't tell me about her because it didn't matter to you. And I can either hold that against you forever, or I can accept that we're both human and move forward." Hope flickered in his eyes. "You mean?" "I mean I choose forward," she said. "With you. Messy past, complicated present, uncertain future, all of it." He pulled her into a hug so tight she could barely breathe, and she felt him shaking slightly. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not," she agreed into his chest. "But you're stuck with me anyway." They stood there in the disaster kitchen, holding each other, and Analia thought that maybe this was what love really looked like. Not the easy parts, but the choosing to stay parts. The keep showing up parts. The "I see your darkness and I'm staying anyway" parts. "Come on," she said finally, pulling back. "Let's save this rice before it becomes a sentient being." Together, they managed to salvage dinner. It wasn't great, but it was edible, and they ate it at their small table, while Ho-jun told her about his day, and she told him about hers, and everything felt normal. Their version of normal anyway. Later, curled up together on the couch, Ho-jun said quietly, "I want to show you something tomorrow, if you're free." "Show me what?" "A place that's important to me. Part of who I was before all this." He looked nervous. "I think you should see it." "Okay," Analia agreed. "I'd like that." The next day, he took her to a small community center in one of the rougher neighborhoods. Kids were everywhere, playing basketball, doing homework, laughing and shouting and being wonderfully chaotic. "I fund this place," Ho-jun said quietly. "Have for years. Nobody knows it's me. Goes through a shell corporation. Anonymous donations. But this is where kids in my territory come when they need somewhere safe." Analia watched him watch the kids, and she saw something in his face she'd never seen before. Pure, uncomplicated joy. This is what you wanted, she realized. Before everything. You wanted to teach, to help kids. "Yeah," he admitted. "This is as close as I can get now. It's not the same, but it's something." "It's beautiful," Analia said honestly. "Have you thought about doing more? Opening more centers? Maybe hiring teachers to run programs?" His eyes lit up. "I've thought about it, but I wasn't sure if it was appropriate, given what I am." "What you are," Analia said firmly, "is someone who cares about these kids. Everything else is just details." She squeezed his hand. "Let's do it. Let's expand this. Make it bigger. Better." "Together?" "Together," she confirmed. Over the next few months, they built something new. community centers throughout Hojun's territory, after-school programs, tutoring services. Analia used her restaurant connections to set up cooking classes for teens interested in culinary arts. Hojun recruited teachers, coaches, mentors. It wasn't legal or illegal, just good, purely good. And slowly, the neighborhood changed. Kids had somewhere to go. Families had resources. The community started thriving in ways it hadn't before. "You're doing it again," Yoonji observed during one of their monthly coffee meetings. "Doing what?" "Building an empire, just a different kind." She smiled. The Viper's wife, creating change through kindness instead of fear. It's almost poetic. Analia laughed. "I'm just trying to make things better." "That's what I said, empire building." One evening, 6 months after Seo-yeon's visit, Analia came home to find Hojun setting up a surprise. Candles, fancy dishes, the works. "What's this?" she asked. "Our anniversary," he said. 1 year since you married me without knowing what you were getting into. Has it really been a year? 365 days of you putting up with my mess, he confirmed. I wanted to celebrate that. Celebrate you. Over dinner, which he'd actually ordered from her favorite restaurant instead of attempting to cook, they talked about everything they'd built together. The community centers, the small business projects, the life they'd created in the spaces between his work and hers. "I have something for you," Hojun said, pulling out a small box. Inside was a key, just a regular house key, nothing fancy. "What's this for?" Analia asked. "Remember the penthouse? The safe house?" At her nod, he continued. "I want to sell it. Use the money to expand the community centers. But I wanted to ask you first, since technically it's our property now." She stared at him. "You want to sell your safe house? What if you need it?" "I don't need a safe house," he said simply. "I need a home, and home is wherever you are." Analia felt tears prick her eyes. "That's extremely cheesy." "But true," he insisted. "So what, do you say? Can we sell it?" "Yes," she said, laughing and crying at the same time. "Let's sell it. Let's build something better." They spent the rest of the evening making plans, how many centers they could open, what programs they could add, all the ways they could make their community stronger. Later, lying in bed, Analia said, "I love you, all of you, the Viper, and Hojun, and everything in between." "I love you too," he said, pulling her close. "Thanks for not running when things got complicated. Thanks for being worth staying for." They fell asleep wrapped around each other, and Analia dreamed of futures, messy and complicated, and absolutely worth fighting for. The end came not with drama, but with quiet resolution. Analia and Hojun built their empire of kindness, one community center at a time. He stayed in his complicated world, but he made it better from the inside. She stayed in her kitchen, but she fed more than just bodies. She fed hope. Their story wasn't perfect. There were still hard days, still arguments about secrets and safety, and all the ways love could be complicated. But they showed up for each other, every single day, and that was perfect. So that's our story. Messy love, second chances, and finding light in unexpected places. If you've stuck with Analia and Hojun this far, drop a comment telling me which part hit you hardest. I read every single one, and they honestly make my day. Thanks for being here, really.